the only person I think is overrating himself as regards of how to win 2027 is Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because the people are not connecting with his governance. And I don't think he's getting the necessary information from people around him. Just like what happened to Buhari with all these excerpts from the revolution we're getting all recently. I don't think he's getting proper data, to show how the people feel and what is the level of the. There was a time Nigeria was the happiest nation in the world. We are not. We are in the saddest level now. So I think if he goes out on the street on his own, and because we don't have a president that, you see, people were kidnapped. The president has not spoken to Nigeria. 2 people died in Capitol Hill. American president spoke to his people. The national security spoke. Everybody they engaged the country, and they make sure that the people were tracked down. The president is not engaging enough. He doesn't talk. There's no interactive media session to be able to tell Nigerians his plans and what he intends to do, so that we can see his shortfalls and probably use it through open letter to the president, through media with like your platform, and then to try to advise him. They say he keeps everything to his chest, and I think the chest is heavy enough, and that is leading to the collapse of our economy.
Hi, Chief Peter Ameh is our guest once again.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Pleasure to be here.
It's always a pleasure having you around. For viewers who only hear about CUPP during elections, what exactly is the coalition of united political parties, and what is your own role in it today?
For me, for the coalition, it's been there for a while, and it's not just there during only election. There was a time that Ikenga Imo Iguchinyere was our spokesman, and when we appointed him, and he performed well before he was able to go to the National Assembly. What we're doing is to be able to make sure that to put together the interest of political parties in order to be able to have a strong, opposition coalition views that will be able to direct the ship of state in a way that those who are at the end of our affairs of our governance system does not just go on riding on without any proper guidance and proper challenge from to be able to put their on the toes, so that they can do the right thing for the people. So the coalition has been there. We have worked with Peter Obi and Atiku. We have worked, for a lot of opposition figures in order to make sure that the opposition gave victory, especially as regards presidential election. So we've done that for quite a while, and it's very clear that our focus objective is to make sure that those in government knows that it's not going to be easy for them to cross the opposition as they intend to do, to create a one-party state.
But there are those Nigerians who argue that opposition is dead in Nigeria today. From inside CUPP, how true is this statement?
There are a lot of expectations from the opposition, whether the figures, whether the political party. People try to want to juxtapose it with what the APC did in ahead of the 2015 general election, where lies will be told, where misinformation will be peddled and shown as if this data really is a reflection of what they should do, and the people were carried away by those such things. I think opposition today is playing more of a more strategic, more intentional, more purposeful role, by not sometimes moving the people in a way to challenge some government policy that will eventually undermine the growth and development of our country. Like what the opposition do with the Occupy Nigeria, especially when Jonathan removed the subsidy regime, attempt to remove the subsidy regime system. You could see that a lot of them have come back to confess that it was just basic politics. And that kind of politics should not be, destructive, to the collective good of our people. Politics should be constructive, should be engaging, and should be directed at making sure that government policy that we impact positively on the life of our people actually, work together well, in a more, understanding between the coalition, between the opposition and those in power.
And then you have been quoted as saying President Tinubu fears only one man ahead of 2027 election. Who is that man, and why do you think or believe Tinubu is afraid of that man?
No, sincerely, what Tinubu wants is a fact. I'm not just making up. Is to be able to be, ahead, to be, peer with the northern candidate. He wants to a situation where he brings up a campaign of Southern solidarity. That is the turn of the South. South has 4 years, and that they're trying to remove him because it's a Southerner and all that. And it seems that the only Southerner that has the capacity to be on the ballot and also be able to challenge him and take over a majority of the vote cast in the South. Because if you look at the data of the last election, in Southern Bloc alone, Peter Obi scored 45.2% of the vote that were cast, while Tinubu was struggling with about 38% of that vote. So you see that when you put them side by side, it is Peter Obi that will be able to defeat the incumbent and then bring a government that will usher in responsible leadership and an accountable leadership that will be transparent. And he knows that there's this mass follower, this organic followership that Peter Obi has among the young people, which he doesn't have. That's declared he doesn't have it. So so it's really on that note that a lot of these parties are in disarray, and it's a deliberate hand of government. The government is using their third hand agents and all the agents in this political party to make sure that this political party. In my history of being a party manager for over let's say 22 years, I've never seen a place where the party comes to almost a situation where their issues cannot be resolved. When parties have specific organs within the party that can self-regulate, self-manage, and self-arrive at a solution to their problem. And in most often times, it is not just the party alone. There's a regulatory body that's responsible for management, for monitoring, for observation of political party activities, which is in the Independent National Electoral Commission. INEC responsibility it goes beyond registering political party. INEC is both a registrar and a regulator. So INEC would have, called parties to meeting. INEC would have found a way to solve the situation. But the first time in the history of my political party administrative career, I discovered that INEC is saying that the party has no leadership. So it's bewildering and it's surprising, sincerely. It's something I've never seen because there's a department responsible for that in INEC, which is called Election and Party Management. And you also have even another department that does about, to resolve issues harmoniously among members that are, quarreling. I hope, because most of this fraud actually emanates from, how the legal department mismanage information. Okay, also the overbearing attitude of the previous chairman. He has people specific that are party leaders that he feels are supporting him, whether it's wrong or not. So he protests them. Even if you get a judgment against them, he stand by them. So I hope the current chairman will go beyond such level of partisanship and look at the responsibility of the commission to be transparent, to be open, and perform for the general interest of our good and the good of our people.
If you are to score President Tunubu over 10 on security, anti-corruption, and economy, how would you rate him and why?
The current economic situation we have, the quagmire that we're facing, sincerely, Tinubu destroyed the economy. Tinubu destroyed the economy because Tinubu is a person who got into government and he didn't have plan, he didn't have policy, he didn't have programs. I think he thought that government would have been, conducted through his whims and caprices, where he dictates whatever I say become a policy. But it was a developmental expert. I know that you need to look at the impact assessment of every policy that you take and how it will affect the downtrodden, the lowest of the people in the society. You don't just take policy because you felt, you have now assumed power or the authority of the president. They look at the very hasty, the very irresponsible manner in which the subsidy was removed. That day, you can fact check me any day, anytime. The filling stations increased their cost of transportation by almost 300%. And that's to do with those who earn 100,000, who stays in Yanya, those who earn 100,000, who stays in Kuwa, who have to come to work, those who are in Gwagwalada, who are working in Wusetu, who have to come to work. And that also drive into how much they can save. And that cost of transport affected the cost of goods and services. Because if you look at transport is a very, very important system within the economic structure of any society. Because when you increase the cost of carrying a basket for tomato from just when it was 500 naira to 3,000, you know what will affect? They will transfer that cost to the end user, to the consumer, which will now bear the burden of such skyrocketed cost. So his removal and his policies had no human face. He wasn't looking that there were masses in this country that have to survive after he does whatever policy removal he was going to remove. And that policy hasn't worked. That policy has failed because the essence of the removal of that policy was to be able to free resources for not paying the level of trillions we pay to, people who still who take our money and don't supply the crude, who overinflate the level of consumption of PMS or whatever with the PMS we consume within our territorial frame of a country. And that has not worked because that money was not free. That money is not available as we speak. It's not helping Nigerians. We are borrowing more. We are spending. We are in the quagmire about our resources. Our budget is about 30 trillion. Having 30 trillion shortfall. So we have a challenge that whatever decision the president took in the removal of subsidy have not translated to a better standard of living for the people. It has even made life more difficult. And for me, I think the president did not, sit down with his people who are expert in management of economy to be able to do what is right. So this economy nosedived because of his, hasty policies, because of his unplanned policies, because of the impromptu nature, which he announces policies as if they depend on his own ego for such policies to be able to drive and bring food on the table. You can't be talking about GDPs. You are talking about all sorts of things where Nigerians are hungry, they're impoverished. Look at the number of people who are out of school. Look at the people who are hungry. Look at the ActionAid report of 18 million young Nigerians unemployed. So what has it done to be able to make the economy a robust economy? Nothing. So nothing so far. You talk about security. I saw a video just now coming that there are communities in Kogi State where I come from, in Okunland, that they have relocated. They have left their community. They have left because they can't. About 40 people were kidnapped from those communities, and there's nothing being done. The security agencies have no capacity. He talked about recruiting more police personnel. You can look at all the flip-flop of his policy. None has been executed. The policemen, we are not seeing them. The recruitment process, we are not seeing how effective it is. Look at the policy. He said, "Oh, I will till 500,000 hectares of land, for farmland." Nigeria is one of the most fertile arable land. About 34 million arable land. That is fertile. That could be used to make. Look at Naija State is about 76.3 square kilometer of land. Kogi is about 29,000 square kilometer of land. Most of these places are ungoverned. People call it ungoverned area. I don't call it ungoverned. They are unused, vast, potentials that have been abandoned by government because government have become lazy, especially this Tunubu administration, only waiting for oil revenue to be able to run an economy. And there's no part of the place I'm looking at, security is not working. The children that were kidnapped in Kwara from the Catholic schools, from Naija from the Catholic schools, are still in their kidnappers then. They say, they are speaking with them. You are speaking with kidnappers on what terms? You are having deliberation with people who have picked up children and telling the parents of the children that the children are doing well. I don't know the kind of things that come to the minds of those who manage our security architecture, where the national security advisor of this country will tell citizens whose children have been kidnapped and say the children are doing well. In the forest or where? Do you know where they are? Have you seen them? Why are they still there? So this challenge about people just talking and thinking that they are doing us a favor, God, you are beholden to us. We are not beholden to you. We have 230 million population. You want the one who want to be in government. You are in government, so you should not expect that we can't question you. You should not expect that the opposition should not exist. You should not expect that the constitution should be, strapped around with bandage and put under the bed because you are president. We're not living on your own authority. We are living on the authority of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as 1999 in the 5th Alteration as amended. So we must speak and look at holistically the performance of the government. If I want to rate him on security, it's 1/10. If I want to rate him on economy, people are suffering. I don't know why we want to pretend. I have relatives. I go to my village. Now people can't travel. Nobody's traveling. The whole road, before it used to be cornered, before he came to office, I don't think the level of kidnapping in Ekiti, in Kogi, in Kwara and Naija were there. So you want us to just wake up and praise him for doing nothing? That's why I asked those people in government who asked us, "Whoa, why are you talking?" I said, "No, you were in government. The buck stops at the table of the president. And if the president knows what he's doing, he cannot say one thing and then we see another." He told us that they have met out of the non-oil revenue that they generated and have surpassed their target for revenue generation. And then the finance minister came some days ago and said, "We're having 30 trillion revenue shortfall." So what kind of flip-flop are we living in a society? Look, if you live in any civilized society, today, the Tunubu would have been having challenge because none of these things are, none of the people in his policy process are coherent. When he talked about, the wife said we are no longer going to be borrowing, going to 2026, Nigeria will be giving money to other nations. The husband is requesting for more loans all over the world. So look, as an economist, I'm not against people borrowing money. It has never been a problem. As a businessman, you could borrow, channel your money into investment, use it, make your profit, and repay your loan. Our loans have become burden. We take this money, we don't see this money, whether they are stolen, whether they are effectively used, is a problem. And then we have, for the first time in the history of this country, let me tell you the truth, it is the first time I'm seeing that federal government are taking up projects without the involvement of the National Assembly, without appropriation, which is even a crime under our law. Tell me which appropriation brought Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway. No appropriation, presidential assent. Without the National Assembly making laws for it, we have three arms of government, and we have merged it into just having the executive, because that is the challenge. You can let them, the Akpa Expressway, they should show me where the National Assembly made appropriation for such expenditure. We're in a country right now that people are spending our money without following the regulatory framework that has been established over the years. We cannot kill democracy in order to build ego of those in power. We must be able to sustain democracy so that the children yet unborn will have the ability to participate in an open, fair environment where their voices will continue to be heard.
On the issue of anti-corruption, how will you rate it?
I really, corruption is one of the major problems of this country. It's why Nigeria is crawling. I think, first of all, I will tell you, because there's a platform for, that was from the budget office that you used to review government expenditure, that you used to see how government spend, how government generate. There's that platform there. It has been there for the past 15 years. The budget office shut it down under Tinubu. You can access it. That platform has been shut down. It's not online. So how do I rate it? That is because opacity drives corruption. Lack of transparency leads to non-accountability. When the government is not accountable to its people, where we can't track your spending, where we can't look at the, your borrowing statistics and see it on a real time, then there's something hidden. Because if you're not transparent, how do I expect that you are not corrupt? These are questions that I asked a lot of my friends. That platform has been there, managed by the budget office. It was shut down. It ran for 15 years uninterrupted. In fact, there was a time under Okojo-Iweala, under Jonathan, that we know how much government is, how much local government we're getting. They publish it in the dailies. So transparency leads to where people have confidence in public, in governance, and leads to, people building confidence in public funding and funding expenditure process. Today, what we have, there's no transparency. If you talk about the fight by, people say ICPC, EFCC is working. If Dangote had not come down to push them for Farouk, they won't be aware. They are waiting for federal government, to tell them where to point them to. We are talking today. I used to tell people, even Malami, I used to tell them when they were in office, when you are in office, no matter how juicy that office is, what you should do is to make sure that the processes respect constitutional procedures. That you do not do anything to undermine our constitution, to organize our regulations and guidelines for management of governance in Nigeria. Because you will leave that template that you have used to misuse, to mismanage our constitutional activities and power will also be used against you. So that's my problem. But I do not think that because one frame, fell short, you have to use that frame to forcefully put it in another frame in order to be able to justify that those before you were wrong. No. If anti-corruption must work, we must see that the level of money used for budgeting process, for expenditure process, are properly tailored to the welfare and direct benefit of the people. We have Sintanko Road. Sintanko Road is from Kogi State. How much has been released for that project? So we need to ask, why are you getting the funding for the local Calabar Coastal Highway? How are you getting? How are you spending it? See, these are all the challenge. I saw the minister talking about that the Calabar Coastal, a lot of people are private entities are willing to take it over and then be able to tow it. We told you from beginning, don't go on white elephant chase, elephant project that you cannot fund. We know it was just a political arrangement for 750 kilometers of roads when Nigeria has federal highways that are not motorable. Because when you try to build something, you look at the architecture, the structural arrangement that is in place, and see that how it has helped to move goods from south to west, or west to north. Why not repair those ones, make them motorable? Why we now try to go on whatever adventure that we intend to go on? So public spending must be prioritized in a way that will make poverty, that will bring poverty reduction, that will remove waste, because there's so much waste in our government. That's why I told you I always believe I wanted people to be nothing special. I'm from the same zone. He's an Igbo man. I'm an Igala man. But we wanted a situation where we have somebody, first of all, that will have pay attention to responsibility, that will be able to cut the cost of governance. The cost of governance is over the roof. Look at their recurrent and every. You see that they are just spending on wasteful items that will never have direct line on the people. Which are the schools that built since they came? Let them show me the schools they are building across Nigeria. Let them show me what they are doing to help education stand. Look, we have federal medical centers across Nigeria. We have national teaching hospitals across Nigeria. Go and look at their budget. Go and look which one have they done. It was under Abacha that the national hospital came on board. National Hospital was fantastic at the time it was built. I was in Abuja. I went to look at it. We had friends who were doing course at International Institute of Journalism, foreigners, who also wanted to see it. Today, where is the dream? You look at the third mainland bridge. That repair was done by Buhari, running into billions of naira. Today, they say they are doing the same thing or the same repair, and there's no budgeted provisions. Challenges is that I cannot believe at this moment that this government is genuinely fighting corruption. That this government is really working to be proactive enough to put checks in place to be able to stop the waste that we see in our government cycle. I don't believe it until I see it. I can't be forced to believe what I don't see.
All right, let's look at this current trending issue between the tax reform that was assented to by the president and then a different thing being circulated by the Minister of Information. It came out yesterday from the House of Reps, and they are saying what they passed and gave to the president to assent, and what the Federal Ministry of Information is circulating is entirely a different thing. And they are calling for the suspension of implementation of that law. To you, how would you look at all of this, and what does it say about governance and our leaders and the people?
I'm heartbroken by the actions of the National Assembly. In a normal civilized society where democracy, where the rule of law, where check and balance work, today they should have invited the president to the National Assembly at the joint sitting. This is not about Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's about the presidency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. People try to personalize every institution of this country. It's not about him. A 40-year-old guy could have been a president. A 35-year-old guy could be a president. Anybody could be, as long as you are a citizen of this country and you have all the prerequisite requirement to be president. But the presidency must not be seen to undermine our constitution, to undermine our laws and regulations of how we do things. We have norms, we have traditions. These are things that you should not break. You cannot say that as National Assembly that you have passed a tax reform bill and it has become a tax reform act. And then the one that is gazetted is totally different than what you have passed. And yet we are not seeing any seriousness, apart from the House of Rep member from Sokoto who made the objection. What did you see with any of the House members agitated about it? All they care about is that they do not want to offend the president. All they care about is their second-term ticket to come in 2027. These people are not there to serve the interest of our people. And it is clear that if this tax reform act it is not suspended, then we'll be riding on illegality. It should be suspended. And for every Nigerian that is calling for the suspension, they're on the right track. I heard that some of our friends and some of our brothers who are in the opposition have gone to court, like Dino Melai. But we must do all we can because see, democracy does not just survive by all these things alone. You need advocacy, you need commitment of people, you need people who will be able to come out and protest peacefully to make sure that certain things that government is doing to force through our throat, we must not allow it to pass. This law will be standing on an illegal operational table if we allow it to continue. Whatever the president have done is a crime. Whatever those who printed it have done is a crime. We must get to the root of it and investigate it so that we will know whether we are setting other acts or laws that have been passed in the past are also being undermined, because this is totally annoying and totally unacceptable by me, and it's an irresponsible thing coming from the National Assembly that the certain automaton has not been issued, whether to the Minister of Finance, whether to the CBN Governor, to the Chairman of FIRS, and all these other agencies. They should have been given later to appear before them so that we can see who was responsibly in altering whatever that was passed at the floor of the National Assembly.
Is CUPP planning to unite behind any presidential candidate in 2027, or will we still see everybody standing on his own and making way for the ruling party the way they made it for them in 2019 and 2023?
In 2023, people should not even just the mistake for 2023. Nigerians did magic. My brother, I've been in party management. I've never seen such a thing. We have always wished for it. We've dreamt about them. We've never seen when Nigeria took a person, a candidate, from a point of no councillor, no local government chairman, no governor, no senator, no house of rep. And you could see some big opposition figure was talking about it and say, let him go and run. How can he win? But eventually he came up. And that election was stolen. Because you look at the data available, you know that Nigerians were able to, cast their vote. So I do not want a situation where this narrative that was put outside the public by APC, saying that it was the opposition division that made them to win. No, the opposition were not divided because it's all about the electoral vote. If the people can vote, each person vote counts. We can get a person to be elected at any time. But that does not mean that I do not want the opposition to come together. I want them to all come together in one basket, having one formidable candidate that has a public accept, that the public accept, that has the public appeal, that people feel connected to, and with the right messaging. Because it's about messaging. It's about people seeing the level of integrity that you have had over the years, because sustaining integrity is not easy. It's not a one-off thing that will just saw you once, you rejected something. In ability to see that those who can come to government, because if the opposition must win, and if we must come together and unite, we must know that we must also look at what will the people accept, what will entice the people to go out to go and cast their vote, like what we saw in 2023, where people were people were injured, people were beaten, they still went out after treatment to go and cast their vote because they saw something that they feel they could give up their life for. But if you are bringing a kite and say because a person is a politician and that's why we must make him a candidate, or because people can manipulate primaries, because primaries is not really the true reflection of what a popular election should be. Even in Trump's era, when the party saw that Trump was the most acceptable for the second term, the majority of the highly placed Republicans stayed away because they needed to win and get back to power. Our focus as opposition is to get to power. And for CUPP, what we have done and the agreement with our members is that we continue to move. And if we have an assembly, because we'll call it assembly, and we meet in assembly and we discover that this candidate meets our criteria, meets our, all the necessary checklists to be able to, run as president of this country, then we'll make official pronouncement. But for now, it is necessary that the opposition come together, but they should not make it feel like the people will not know what to do. The people can always decide who will govern them, even, without all the necessary big weight being there. But the big weight being there, we add more, more momentum to the struggle of the citizens to be able to see that the government that works for their interests is put in place come 2027.
What is likely to be CUPP's plan B or next line of action if the likes of P2B, Atiku, and other big political figures fail to unite ahead of 2027? Do you have any plan B?
We will speak to Nigerians. We will speak to their conscience. We will beg them to, continue their commitment to, saving this country from the hands of the hawks that have attacked it, and making sure that they come out, and not get discouraged, because the glitches that happened in 2023, which was, I feel, is a deliberate thing, because there's no way you can define it, because if it's not a deliberate thing, why are you not opening your books? Why are you not calling for independent inquiry? Why are you not allowing people to come and say, oh, this is what happened? So people should not be discouraged. You don't expect to throw this level of shot that you have done and then make sure that you get a goal. Big professional footballers miss penalties. So we should see as citizens what we've done is as a foundation, and it has been recorded in annals of history that Nigerians woke up in 2023 and said, no, we want to show you that we are the structure. We want to show you that there's no money bags that can determine continuously determine that they must continue to rotate themselves in power. That we can take a man from Massacre, we can take a man from Agege, we can take a man from Aba, we can take a man from Ogugu, and make that man the president of this country. So that is kind of belief that Nigerians had in 2023. Yes, their spirit is weak. They are not as strong as they were in 2023, and they are trying to beat up with a lot of narrative, and we can't do it again. Because when you are defeated in a way that you are cheated, you feel as if I do it again, they will still steal it. But I think the mistakes we made were that there were no proper agents at the polling unit. In close to 90% of the polling unit, there were no agent for that, for P2B at the polling unit. And that also affected the process, because most people believe that the promise that INEC made, that results will be transmitted directly from the polling unit. It is not it's not something that is rocket science. Ghana did it. Even the Ghana sitting vice president contested said he considered defeat, because when they saw that the upload of results at about 80-something%, showing that his opponent had won. There's no choice than to concede defeat. Transparency takes away all this mistrust and mutual, disaffection that we have against ourselves. So if you have a center where there's a control and panel for the election, especially for data collection, they should allow agents of political parties to also be present in those meetings, in that data control unit, so that we can have proper monitoring of the process to a logical conclusion. And I want the people not to be discouraged. That what happened in 2023, yes, it's painful, but we must continue to march forward in an everlasting commitment to say that this country is worthy, and this is worthy of our struggle, worthy of our commitment, and that we really need to save this country so that we can unleash the potential of this country, whether human or human or natural resources, to the world, because Nigeria is really blessed. We have very young people, very brilliant people. Look at the record in America. Nigerians are doing very well. Go to England, Nigerians are doing very well. Go to Canada, Nigerians are doing fantastic well. But it's only in Nigeria that Nigerians don't do well, because leadership had beaten us to a point that they are not creating an enabling environment for innovation to work. They are not creating an environment for knowledge to drive the economy. They are just interested in politics alone. Since we got out of 2023, the APC and its supporters have not done anything to say that they have pushed Nigeria, to a point that we will now become envy of other nations across Africa. All they have done is 2027, is billboards on the road, is buying a vehicle for campaign, and forceful, committing governors to leave the opposition to join them. If the governors matters in the first place, there's no way Obi would have, gotten the 6.1 million votes, that he had, despite all the rigging. There's no way. The governors don't matter. They lost all the one in Southeast. They lost all the presidential election polling units. The ones in the South side. Okowa was vice presidential candidate to Atiku. Atiku was, and in Delta, Okowa lost 80%. Peter Obi had 80% of the vote in Delta. So it is about the people. We must galvanize the interest of the people, push their interest to a point that they will see that this government in place today has failed the country. And APC cannot be talking about 2 years of Tinubu or 2 years plus. They have been in power for 10 years and no progress, nothing. Only the train station from Abuja to Kaduna that was attacked by kidnappers. Look at the level of the kind of infantry, the kind of courage that the kidnappers are having, that they have to stop a train in our country to be able to kidnap people, where we lost people from NLC, lost people from all walks of life. And then till today, for a country that works, do you know that train station is not doing 2 routes today? It's doing only 1. That is the problem of people when you have people in power, when they cannot be able to think. What they think about is money, free money coming from the oil, free money coming from one mono product that we depend on, instead of expanding revenue generation, expanding the economy in order to better the level of our people.
You said something about that the APC had been busy talking about 2027, posters, billboards, buying cars. What is the role of INEC in all of this? Ahead of time, is it time? Has campaign been lifted? Has INEC not a role to play in all of this?
INEC has a role. INEC, people don't understand the work that INEC does. And that's why you find out that's why in record, if you look at the past record of panels that have been set up to look at our elections, like Justice Uwe's electoral reform panel 2008, Justice Limu election violence report 2011, all they talked about is INEC should be unbundled, and INEC should be unbundled in a way that we take full independence of the commission from the presidency, so that the appointing authority does not continue to dictate the processes and continuous management of the commission. Where you could see that there's always a backdoor end to the management of the condition from those who are appointing, is how Mahmoud was removed. Those were not best of friends, because we've known ourselves, but I'm not somebody that is his fan. He knows that. But the way he was removed only showed to me that you could get directive from the presidency at any time to remove the INEC chairman. And any situation that happens like that, because they always claim that the appointing authority can suspend. That's what they've claimed from the time they got into office, from the APC time, that any appointing authority can suspend. Even the CBN governor suspend anybody. But the truth remains that for INEC to be truly independent, for the confidence in INEC to continue to rise, because confidence in INEC is at all-time low as we speak, all-time low. It's not just me. You could look at every available data and it will tell you that it has all-time low. So for us to continue to have a process where voter apathy will disappear, and people will now go out to vote, where each man, is entitled to just one vote, and that record stand. Then we'll have a better thing. But for today, why this confidence is not there is that if other parties have been putting those billboards you saw on at the National Airport Road in Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, and if other parties were now busy organizing programs with the T-shirt of the president, talk about 2027, you could have seen the hammer of the president of the INEC on the party. INEC would have hammered those parties. INEC is not weak, or does not have the know how to weigh this power. It's just that INEC is not strong when it comes to the ties of those already in power. So INEC, we must strengthen the commission by unbundling it and creating political party management and regulation commission, election management commission, and we create delineation and other departments, including election litigation and other processes for INEC, so that INEC will be relieved of this burden of carrying a lot of responsibility that is not directly linked, that can just be given to another commission to manage. So we need to be able to do that, to be able to give INEC the freedom that is required to be able to stay and say these all parties have failed to meet certain of this regulation. This party have undermined these certain provisions of the code, because INEC has quasi-judicial power that they make subsidiary legislation for the management of the commission. And if you look at subsidiary legislation, the one that is enforced today is you have election and party management regulation and guideline 2022. These regulations are there. Maybe they'll make another one for 2027 election, because they always do it maybe 1 year ahead of the election, or we are using the 2022 one. You will see that they have subsidiary legislation that they could be able to reframe and frame processes that will better, give balance to all political parties. Because by the provision of the Constitution, that when you read section 223 to 210, all parties are equal. All parties have equal responsibility, form equally with all set of provision by the Constitution. But when it comes to the management process, the operation process, it doesn't seem likely that the parties are equal. Because INEC before, when we were really active in engaging INEC, there's no way INEC will ever receive judgment from a state high court. No way. Because they will tell you that section 133 makes INEC a federal executive body. And a state high court does not have jurisdiction over the effect of a federal body. But today INEC will tell you that they want to obey it before it is set aside, and all sorts of things. And there are no punitive measures in order to be able to put this before the NJC, so that these lower courts who are dabbling into jurisdiction that they have no authority over should have been dealt with in an appropriate manner. So we have a challenge that INEC looks the other way when it feels that the people committing this level of crime are too powerful, and then look straight in the eyes of those who are powerless to be able to tell them, this is the law, you have to obey it. If you don't obey it, these are the consequences. So we have a lot of challenge, and we must do it, and we will not give up, and let us remain committed to making sure that we continue to put INEC on the front burner of our activities. Because if we don't have free and fair elections, to be sincere with you, if people can't wake up and wear their suit and they don't have billions and go to contest election, because look at when INEC wanted to start charging candidates who want to contest election. Ganifa Ameh went to court, stopped it. That's why INEC is not charging any candidate. INEC attempted it. That's why INEC is not charging candidates. That's why only parties are charging. So we must have, how they call it, participatory democratic engagement by citizens to be able to keep INEC on its check. If we now look at what INEC has become, and we say we are not going to, continue to challenge them, then INEC will be become worse as we go further into our democratic governance, and there could be hijacked, and the fear of one party state become a success.
You've been in party politics for quite a long time to know patterns. What we have on ground now, do you see it as Nigeria's problem being that of bad leaders in a good system, or a product of a bad system that produces bad leaders?
It's a product of bad leaders in a bad system. And if you have good leaders, this system could have been, rearranged for the benefit of the people. No system can function if we don't really want a system that is dependent on powerful men. We want a system like in Switzerland, like in America, that is dependent on the system. not the leaders dictating how the system functions. Yes, we have very weak institution. We have a very weak system. Just look at what the president is doing. The IG of police, his time as a lapse. He's supposed to go home. But the president is using his presidential prerogative to keep him in power because he feels, oh, he's the one I know, he's the one I can trust. But you have forgotten that you are damaging the institution. Look at the attempt to promote his ADC to Brigadier General, all the rumor everywhere. And they say, oh, he has rescinded that. Imagine promoting a person who have not gone to command and staff, who have not gone to defense college, who have not gone to NIPS, to Kuru. Imagine just promoting that person, because for people talk about, oh, there was a time they did it in. No, Army has really reformed to a point that you have junior div, senior div, you have work college, you have NIPS. These are the every process that leads to a certain level of promotion, from captain to major, from major to lieutenant colonel, and from lieutenant colonel to colonel. There's a course you must undertake. So using presidential fear to attempt to underwrite the whole institution, that's why we tell you that it's bad leaders. It shows that people come into power, use whatever power that is at their disposal, and undermine the system and crush the system. And the people who are supposed to be, it's not only the 3 arms in zone or 3 arms institution that are supposed to help boost the independence of our democracy. It's even the people. But the people have the shortest attention span in anywhere in the world that you can see is Nigerians. Because as soon as this one comes, they do they're heavy on it. They are moving to the next one. But overseas, people continue to engage government on the specific issues until government sees that whatever they are doing is wrong, and then reverse, so that they move to others and then continue to do such engagement. So, but we have bad leaders who over the years have used the system to their own advantage, to better the life of their children, to better the life of their crony and those. Have you read the book, what people are saying about Buhari tenure? Have you read that book? From soldier to, it's sad. That means for 8 years, we had a president that was not a president. For 8 years, Nigerians were here hopeful that the president was going to do something. Buhari will wake up tomorrow. Buhari wasn't even there. He was afraid of what people would say, and yet a lot of people were afraid that it was very tough. But these are the challenges. When citizens don't engage, this is what you get. But if citizens effectively engage government, there will be the back door, the hidden truth will be opened before the person leaves office. When you talk about even the wife, it is sad from what the wife is saying that, oh, people couldn't allow her to cook for the husband was even afraid of death, locked his room. These are the things that happen in government because citizens don't engage government. And citizens also have responsibility to democracy. They have responsibility to governance, for good governance and development. They shouldn't just stand aloof and say, oh, we have elected them, is their government. If they do finish, another one will come, our turn will come. This our turn by turn Nigerian PSC is killing the country. If you take your money and leave, what the water, if people go to vote, you talk about water system. There's no government in Nigeria that talks about water infrastructure again. They're talking about boreholes. State governors will go and put ribbon and launch and commission borehole. State governors that receive 30 billion, 25 billion for monthly allocation from a work that they did not do. These people did not do one single work for receiving that money. It's a feeding bottle federalism, where they sit down, they get fed like babies by one big resourceful region, which is the South. They take the oil, the degradation of the environment, the community. Ogoni people are not happy because they have not seen the development that is in Abuja. Abuja was built with oil money. Lagos partially enjoy what they call oil money. Most of the state today is being built by oil money. But the land where the oil is coming from, they are living in poverty. They are living in a very poor environmental condition where they can't even farm, where they can't even access better life of standard of living. So because we have become lazy to this feeding bottle federalism, we have become lazy. And see, we need to be able to look at our governance system. I don't know what God will do for us. I don't know how we'll be able to escape this thing. But this unitary federalism that we're practicing is putting our future in danger, because governors, people see governors, they run from the road. I ask them, are the governors doing anything special why I will have to run? There's nothing. The governors are not intelligent. They are not innovative. They are not progressive in their mind and their thoughts. They're not changing anything in their state. What are they doing? What are governors doing? What is the presidency doing? So we generate money, we waste the money. Go and look at their budget. Go and look at their expenditure. You will know that Nigerians must wake up to make sure that these resources that is being stolen is used for our people. We can't continue like this. I don't know how long we can sustain this level of bad leadership
Who or what is the biggest threat to Nigeria's democracy today?
Go and read Kladike, Democracy and Development. Democracy should be able to lead to development. If it doesn't lead to development, you start to see some other issues. Go and read them, the opinion of scholars, of the theories people are provided, whether it's John Locke, whether there's democracy really, or do we need to have benevolent dictators? These are the challenges of democratic governance in the world. People one time want to say, oh, this is Singapore. Have you read the story of Singapore? From third world to first world nation? Lee Kuan Yew. The man painstakingly changed the country to what it is today, where you can't even just move around. Discipline is part of it. And the integrity of our leaders matters. Those are the kind of leaders we have today. Do they have the kind of integrity that will drive us to the level of what Singapore became? Look, go to everywhere you read now is Kigali. It's Rwanda that is the top story in Africa. The level of governance the president is providing. Governance is not rocket science. We're not doing anything special. We take money from one region, take the money and allocate it properly. That is what our government officials are supposed to do. Allocate it optimally, positively, to benefit the life of the people. Prioritize spending. Which money are you putting to healthcare? Look at it. There's nothing. They're not doing anything. So all the things we had, the major development we had, well, before we got into this Fourth Republic, our government are no longer as visionary as we used to know. Nigeria is in this, I don't know, very pitiful situation. People say we shouldn't say it, but I know the level of text I receive. I know the level of message I receive. So for it to work, we must put people who are committed to seeing the Nigeria walk into power. You think all these things will disappear within 1 year. We have money. Money is not the problem of Nigeria.
But those in government argue that Nigeria does not have money.
No. We are the only oil producing nation in the world that does not have a flow meter on our pipeline. What flow meter does is to know specific how much revenue is generated from you. I mean, how many barrels are you pumping through your pipes? They don't put it. Because we lose more of our oil to oil theft, crude oil theft. America stopped one of our vessels the other day. We have not heard the report. Nigeria is going to forget. Maybe that money will even go because they will not want to talk about it. Let America go with it or anybody go with it. That one is gone. With another one, we'll go and put another pipe and type another one. So we don't have this. What we have is waste. What we have is corruption. What we have is lack of the competent hands to be able to say, look, we're doing this for our country. So that's just what we have. Look at the story of Dangote, how they sabotage the refinery, how they are stealing all those equipment. It's because they don't want anything to work, so that the system will remain in a situation that will depend on them. Whether we are all supposed, whether you are in government, outside government, we are all supposed to be depending on the system. But they want a system where the system will depend on them. They want a situation where people will come to their house and beg for what to eat, so that their children live luxurious lifestyle, where they could fly private jet with our public resources. These people are insulated from the crisis of this country. They don't know anything that is going on. If they tell you go to the same market, it's a lie. We don't go to the same market with them. How they go to market, they don't care. They can take 1 billion and buy things for food alone. We can't afford that. You can't afford that. People on the street can't afford it. So they don't. Not that husband and wife that are taking the list and checking, tomato is 13 naira. This one is 10 naira. Peppermint. Husband and wife are checking it one by one. These people in government don't check it. It's only in this country that people get money from government. They get paid. Government feeds them. Government buy their kitchen utensils. Government fuel their cars. Government do everything. And their children also use our private jet. Their children fly in our private jet. You go to Canada, there was removed, the prime minister. It's because they flowed, I'm trying to remember, they attended Mandela's inauguration or something with our children inside a public-private jet. And there was crisis in the country. That public-private jet was not meant for family use. So, do we have that kind of people in this country? We don't. There's abuse of office, there's abuse of authority, abuse of public infrastructure. If I want to use ICC today, I have to cough out millions to use it. It's a public infrastructure. But I'm telling you, relatives of the president and other relatives of other people might get it for free. Are we equal? Anybody who sits in his house and say we are equal, I laugh at them. Because the only way we can be equal is for us to make sure that democracy, the authority to make someone governor, the authority to make a person president, reside in the people. When as soon as that becomes the norm, that becomes our modus operandi, when in every election, then you will find out the equality will start to return to our country.
One thing, let's look at one thing that President Tinubu is doing right that the opposition can publicly admit. Is there anything that the president is doing right that the opposition can publicly admit that he's doing this one right?
Is our naira stronger? No. Is the cost of buying petrol by liter, has it returned to where he met it? No. What is the strength of our money with dollar? When did he come to? What did he meet? So we should forget about all this level of reverse psychology that the APC tried to deploy sometime when the price of rice got to 100 and something, and they are shouting now the price that dropped is 70,000 naira. You are dropping that price at the expense of the local farmers. All the local farmers are crying. Go and do interview, ask them, because they have opened up the border in order to crash the price of rice, crash the price of beans. They have opened up the private border. I have a friend who used to buy a bag of rice, beans, and store, and then sell where it is in scarcity. He has lost so much money. He's looking for a way to pay his bank, because it is not about local economy. It is about mass importation. Mass importation that they are damage the economy of the local farmers. Because if you can encourage local farmers, that will in return bring employment, that will in return bring local content into our food production and food consumption system, then we are not going to be having an economy that will compete globally with other agro-allied nations. I told you, we have 34 million arable land, fertile, not just arable, it's fertile land, and yet we can't be boastful that we are the highest exporter of coconut, that we are the highest exporter of palm oil, and that we are the highest exporter of any food, any crop. So this is a challenge. We have cashew in Kogi. That is really one of the major this thing for the farmers there. What is federal government doing? What is federal government policy towards it? The cocoa in Ondo and other state of the West. What is federal government policy towards those directions? So we are not seeing what they are doing yet. But I assure you and I assure Nigerians that I'm not on a destructive path for any person. What I want is that as soon as I see one thing that works and that is doing well, sincerely, I will organize a press conference to say thank you. But for now, there's nothing.
All right, let's wrap up this here. Who would you say is the most overrated politician in Nigeria right now ahead of 2027?
The only person I think is overrating himself as regards of how to win 2027 is Ameh Tinubu, because the people are not connecting with his governance, and I don't think he's getting the necessary information from people around him. Just like what happened to Buhari with all these excerpts from the revolution we're getting all recently. I don't think he's getting proper data, to show how the people feel and what is the level of the. There was a time Nigeria was the happiest nation in the world. We're not. We're in the saddest level now. So I think if he goes out on the street on his own, and because we don't have a president that, you see, people were kidnapped. The president has not spoken to Nigeria. 2 people died in Capitol Hill. American president spoke to his people. The national security spoke. Everybody they engaged the country, and they make sure that the people were tracked down. The president is not engaging enough. He doesn't talk. There's no interactive media session to be able to tell Nigerians his plans and what he intends to do, so that we can see his shortfalls and probably use it through open letter to the president, through media with like your platform, and then to try to advise him. They say he keeps everything to his chest, and I think the chest is heavy enough, and that is leading to the collapse of our economy.
What's your last word to Nigerians? More so, as the year gradually comes to an end.
There should not be despair. They should continue to believe in this indivisible nation called Nigeria. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of potential in our country, both human and natural resources, that we should not be afraid of what anybody in power do. As soon as we get it right, and they are committed to getting it right through the electoral ballot. If we get it right, I assure you that Nigeria in a very short time will be, the envy of many nations and many countries. So it's important that they should not be discouraged. They should be committed to this country and continue to believe in the good that can come out of this country.